Tonight on Ctv3 News, torrential rain spell flooding for the north. The village of August Pine Ridge in Orange Walk is affected. Convention date set for Corozal Bay, July 14th. Voters head out to the polls. Sugar shortage persists. We'll tell you where the Supplies Control Unit is with its investigation. And an anti-money laundering conference is held in Belize. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Monday, June 17th, 2024.
El siguiente es un comunicado de St. Francis Xavier Credit Union Limited. Reunión especial. Comunicado a los miembros. Estimados miembros, en conformidad con la sección 61.8 de la Ley de Uniones de Crédito, el registrador de uniones de crédito ha otorgado aprobación al administrador para que se lleve a cabo una reunión especial. Dicha reunión se llevará a cabo el domingo 16 de junio del 2024 a las 10 de la mañana en el auditorio Hugo J. González en el Centro Escolar México Junior College, aldea de San Román en el distrito de Corozal. Todos los miembros están invitados a asistir a la reunión especial, ya que el administrador proporcionará una actualización sobre los asuntos de la unión de crédito. Se requiere que los miembros presenten sus libretas y una identificación válida para registrarse. Los arreglos de transporte se anunciarán en una fecha posterior. Mensaje del administrador St. Francis Xavier Credit Union Limited.
Good evening. With your news also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7, I am Joanna Rodriguez. It was an extremely wet weekend after months of severe high temperatures. However, with a mere 2 weeks into the hurricane season 2024, the weekend proved severely worrisome when the rain seemed to not want to stop. Since Saturday, communities have seen residential homes and business being inundated by rising waters across the country of Belize. It has to do with an area of low pressure that passed through parts of Belize and is now located near the Bay of Campeche. While it is still on debate, experts say the system can evolve to becoming the first named storm, Alberta, of the hurricane season. Earlier today, we had a one-on-one with the chief meteorologist at the National Meteorological Service of Belize.
Yes, so certainly we had a very moist and unstable pattern dominating weather conditions over the weekend. Several factors contributed to that. We had a broad area of low pressure over much of Central America, Yucatan Peninsula, something that has been recently named as the Central American Gyre, which basically is a rotation coming out from the Pacific and covering the entire Central American region and even the Yucatan Peninsula. Coupled with that, you had a low pressure system in the mid levels providing some forcing. And then we had favorable upper level winds and anticyclone at the higher levels, providing the venting that you need for deep thunderstorm development over the region. So based on that, and as a result of that, we had significant downpours of rainfall affecting the country, starting from as early as Thursday night into Friday and persisting throughout the weekend. Our network of automatic weather stations across the country up to this morning showed that between Friday and Monday morning, which is this morning, we had rainfalls in the range of up to 11 inches. In particular, at August Pine Ridge, our weather station there recorded 288.2 millimeters, which works out to be 11.3 inches of rainfall. Other notable areas are Little Belize with about 8 inches of rainfall. And when you look at the even down to the Belize City region and the Hattieville area, we had rainfall in excess of 6 inches over the past 4 days. In the west, at Moyehon, we had about 4 inches, more or less. And then lesser values further south, we're looking at about 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 inches in some areas down south, no? But overall, it focuses up over northern Belize, where a significant amount of rainfall occurred over the weekend.
And with more bad weather predicted to head our way, Chief Meteorologist Ronald Gordon says we should keep on alert.
We noticed that the low pressure system is forecast to move into the Bay of Campeche and then eventually may become a tropical cyclone. As it moves away from us, it will take some of that energy and moisture away. So we will see a slight decrease. However, the broad circulation will persist, so moisture will remain relatively high. I'm looking at daily totals of about 1 inch of rainfall, one with maximum of 2 inches for about today, Tuesday into Wednesday. And then on Thursday, another mid-level trough will approach us, supporting another increase in moisture with totals going up to about 4, maybe up to 6 inches in localized areas. So to summarize, there will be a slight break, not completely dry. We're still in the rainy season, but there'll be a slight break up to about Wednesday, and then going Wednesday night into Thursday, there'll be another surge in moisture and rainfall across the country based on the forecast model. I would dare to say that certainly we'll have to look at that risk continuing forward. We know that the soils are becoming saturated. They were extremely dry last month, but that has reversed now with the increased rainfall. So with increased saturation, the risk for flooding will certainly increase. And then again, this is hydrology's domain, but the issue of transboundary flow, we know that we share certain rivers with our neighboring countries, and rainfalls, especially in Mexico, over in north of us, was very significant, even higher than the values we saw. And so certainly we are likely to be impacted by that as it comes downstream as well, no?
One village that was affected yesterday by the intense showers is August Pine Ridge here in the Orange Walk district. The heavy rainfall that began around 5 this morning affected approximately 10 families, with 2 of them having to be evacuated. With the creek rising to the level of the bridge, the Medina family, comprised of 7 adults and 1 child, found themselves in serious trouble as the water flowed into their yard and then their home.
Primer año que me llega hasta ese grado la agua, siempre se crece, pero no tanto como ayer. Ayer sí fue una pérdida grandísima para mí porque se mojaron completamente. Pues no, exactamente no dio tiempo para sacar lo que yo quiero sacar. Sí, yo cuando salí de mi casa ya me daba el agua hasta por acá. Sí, ya no dio tiempo para nada.
Entonces todo de adentro se mojó.
Sí, solo mi ropa, pues logré subir arriba del ropero, las ropas.
¿Y primera vez que sucede desde que usted está viviendo aquí, que llega el agua tan alto?
Pues sí, exactamente, no sube, no, pero no tanto como ayer. Ayer sí fue más alto que...
Entra en su casa.
Ajá, sí.
Las pérdidas que todo usted perdió, básicamente, ¿qué es lo que usted necesitaría ahorita?
Pues se mojaron todos los colchones, el refrigerator, la lavadora, la estufa se quedó dentro de agua. Sí, no había quien me ayude en ese momento.
The south side of the village was also affected by the torrential rains as the creek flows right in front of their yard. Luckily, the waters receded rapidly, and this morning the family was working on the damages caused and the cleaning of the debris. According to the chairman of the village, Fred Renault, the significant flooding was one never seen before.
La inundación aquí con la familia Medina y la familia Ramos fueron los más afectados. Hay otras familias igual también que se les inundó, entró el agua en su casa, pero los más dañados aquí es la familia Medina y la familia Ramos. Y prácticamente subió el agua como 4 pies de alto, y quedó el agua en la casa bajo del agua, las 2 casas y las otras casas pues se le entró como un pie de agua más o menos, ¿no? Sí, sí, hay un creek que pasa enfrente al lado de sus casas y creo que sí necesita trabajo el creek para que pueda fluir el agua más rápido.
Bueno, vimos que MIDH estaba aquí esta mañana. ¿Trabajaron en eso? ¿Qué fue lo que hicieron ellos?
Sí, llegaron esta mañana, como alrededor de las 9:30 más o menos. Repararon una parte del creek que se dañó, que lo lavó la corriente, eso vinieron a reparar. Y también los llevé a checar el otro lado donde estaba dañado la otra familia que necesita también ayuda para limpiar el creek para que pueda fluir el agua más rápido.
Entonces, ¿ellos van a regresar o van a hacer ese trabajo hoy también?
Sí, hablé también con el ministro May. Él va a dar culverts para que se pueda poner aquí la entrada del creek para que pueda fluir el agua más rápido. Y también ellos mañana van a venir a volver a trabajar en ello, ¿no?
This morning, when we were in the village, representatives of the Human Development Department were providing relief to the affected families. NEMO was also expected to return to the village to provide assistance.
Ya tomaron los datos necesarios para venir a ayudar a las familias, a todas las familias. Y yo también estoy en espera para que llegue el Human Development para dar la ayuda a las familias afectadas.
¿Qué tipo de ayuda va a traer NIMO para esas familias?
Pues en eso estamos esperando ahorita que lleguen. Ya me llamaron, están en camino y ya veremos qué pueden ayudar a ellos. Igual también nosotros como Concilio de Llano vamos a dar nuestra ayuda para las familias.
Yo sé que esta mañana había mencionado que por favor la gente tire la basura en el lugar correcto. ¿Eso es un problema también cuando se trata de los drenajes aquí?
Pues sí, así es. Pues tenemos que cuidarlo porque se tapan los drenajes y luego vemos las inundaciones. Tenemos que tener más cuidado donde tirar la basura, ¿no?
As mentioned, the weekend's heavy showers caused flooding in the village of August Pine Ridge. With 10 families affected, NEMO and the Human Development Department moved swiftly to assist those in need. As for the Ministry of Infrastructure and Housing, they also moved into the village to address any possible damage to the bridge. Luckily, there was one, says Chief Engineer Evadil Moody.
In the Orange Walk District, we had one area for assets that were inundated by floodwaters, which is the August Pine Ridge Road within the August Pine Ridge Village. In that area, we had one bridge that was inundated by floodwaters, as I've indicated. However, that has receded after a few hours yesterday. That flooding occurred at one of the bridges within August Pine Ridge Village. It was approximately around mile 15, I understand, 15 or 15.2, whereby due to the high intensity of rainfall, that inundated that small bridge that was there. However, that water receded within 2 to 3 hours after it had risen about 2 feet above the bridge itself. But in terms of structural failures, there was no damages or anything to the bridge structure or the approaches to that bridge structure because the water was basically moving at a slow velocity.
A portion of the recently upgraded Ramata Road was also affected by the weekend's heavy downpour.
The pavement was inundated by floodwaters near a pedestrian ramp. And so the water was holding up there, and that's what created that little washout by the ramp. However, that project is still under defect liability period, and so the contractor will repair that damage.
A convention date has been set for the Curacao Bay constituency by the National Campaign Committee of the People's United Party. Current area representative Elvi Vega Samos will be challenged by Thea Garcia Ramirez, two well-known women of Curacao with high political background. So there is no doubt that come July 14, the Bay will become a battleground with the electorate of the constituency deciding who will represent them in the upcoming general elections whenever it's called by Prime Minister John Briceño. But while the electorate will have a voice, PUP ministers, even though they might already have their candidate of preference, have been asked to stay out of the race.
Once again?
Well, we've been specifically asked, meaning parliamentarians, to stay out of the contested conventions. But I think Honorable Elvi has done a wonderful job for the good people of Corozal Bay. And at the end of the day, I am sure that we will get excellent representation coming out of the Bay.
In the same way that Mr. Usher was spared a contest because Mr. Pollard wanted to run against him, should Elvia have been spared in the same way?
That is a matter for the National Campaign Committee. Unfortunately, I do not sit on that committee. I do not hear the deliberations of that committee, but I am told that they met sometime last week and that decision was made.
What are your views?
Since the start of June, the Supplies Control Unit within the Ministry of Agriculture has been working closely with sugar industry stakeholders here in the North to identify the wholesalers and retailers of sugar in the hope of weeding out those persons who have been illegally sending our sugar across the border. Last week, we heard from the Director of Supplies, Lennox Nicholson, about where the investigation was in terms of verifying legitimate wholesalers. Of a list of about 20 potential wholesalers, only a small number of about 5 had been verified as selling sugar into
where we are at this stage. So basically we're tracing back. We have the list from BSI telling us these are the people that purchase from us, these are the quantities they buy. Fine. So then we look at that list, particularly the 2021 distributors who are supposed to be supplying the retail outlets. If their role is to supply the retail outlets, then when we go to the retail outlets, we expect to find invoices and receipts to demonstrate and prove that they are actually supplying that sector. And out of that list, the ones that I mentioned, you notice I'm nowhere near 20,
Right.
are the ones for whom we have been able to find evidence that they're actually supplying the market.
Right.
So where do we go from here? The task now becomes having some of the other enterprises answer some good questions for us.
Okay.
So our office have to engage with them. And when I use the term engagement, I'm talking about doing enforcement work. It's just a polite way of saying we need to find out what is happening with the product, because at the end of the day, early on there seemed to have been an attempt to cast blame. Who is responsible?
Exactly.
And really and truly, our employers who pay our wages, the people of Belize, and the customers for the mill are not very much interested in the assigning of blame. What they want is to ensure that when they go to make a purchase, that product is available and it's available at a reasonable price. So we have to bring a close to this particular matter and ensure that the supply situation improves, right?
As the producers of sugar and the regulators for the sale of sugar, Nicholson says that BSI, ASR, and the government need to work together to get the matter of continued sugar shortage under control.
And the state cannot sit idly by and allow a situation where our population is unable to access a product that we produce in excess to the extent that we can supply other parts of the world. The state cannot just sit by and allow that to happen. And we are putting together ideas, plans. If certain things do not improve, then we will have to inform our policymakers what additional tools they may want to consider giving us in order to remedy this particular situation. But again, we're not doing a knee-jerk reaction to just say, well, let's over-regulate the sector.
Exactly.
Right? But this situation where it is not known who the distributors are can't work. And there is often a lot of room for rancor and discording when it comes to matters related to sugar.
Right.
I think you know that better than I do. But on this one, it is in the government's interest for sure, and it is in BSI's interest for sure to ensure that their customers are properly supplied with product.
Exactly.
And there has to be room for cooperation between the mill as the producer, who have all the information on who is getting product, how much they're getting, how often they're getting it, and ourselves, who have an enforcement responsibility to ensure that the product destined for the domestic market remains here.
Exactly.
Right? So there, from time to time, we need to disagree, we need to argue on policy matters and so on, but there are times when we must cooperate. And on this particular issue, I think it is in everybody's interest, for the mill and the government, my office in particular, to have discussions and cooperate, exchange ideas and exchange information with a view to getting this matter under control.
Coming up next, Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism conference is held in Belize. Stay tuned.
The Orange Walk Clinical Lab Summer Promotion 2024 is here. Get your summer promotion on glucose, cholesterol, triglyceride and hemoglobin for only $20. Also fantastic promotions on prostate PSA for only $50. We also have other packages on promotion. We also provide DNA paternity testing. We take this opportunity to inform the general public in the Orange Walk District that we are an approved NHI lab service provider. So for all your NHI lab tests, just visit your NHI medical provider and visit us at the Orange Walk Clinical Laboratory. We take care of all your NHI lab tests. Results are provided the same day. Come visit us on number 20 San Antonio Road, Orange Walk Town. Call for details at 322-0423 or 600-2727. Call 630-1479. Remember, don't wait for symptoms. Check your health today. The Orange Walk Clinical Laboratory.
Today, the government of Belize held for the second time its Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism conference. It is a major move by the present administration, who is determined to break the barriers of terrorism. While sessions were closed, the media was able to gather up the details with officials. Elmer Cornejo reports.
The National Anti-Laundering Committee, the U.S. Embassy, and other partners for the second time held the Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism conference. The event began with an opening ceremony that included remarks from the Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Karim Musa, among others.
So, as you might be aware, over the last few years, we have passed several pieces of legislation specifically geared towards countering money laundering in the country and the financing of terrorism. And I can say that from our mutual evaluations, we've had 3 so far, moving into the 4th and 5th. Belize has been doing exceptionally well. And we want to continue that trend, and what it requires is a partnership, like I mentioned, with all of these entities, all of these officials coming together to ensure that we continue on that right path. Absolutely, I think over the last decade, the word de-risking, blacklisting, these are all words that have become very commonplace. We all understand what it means for financial systems, for banking sector, and so we have to ensure as best as possible that we do not make our way on any of these lists, and we do not put ourselves in a position to get any de-risking. And so that is the importance of these events, to ensure that we continue on this right path, passing legislation, implementing a lot of training for officers and the different agencies, not only to investigate but to successfully prosecute crimes such as the unexplained wealth orders, civil asset recovery. All of these things, again, geared towards ensuring that we stay on the correct path.
One of the major discussions presently in the police department is that of a fraud unit, and the ministry is doing its part, says Musa.
Hopefully within the year to have that specialized unit. Of course, it will require a lot of training, but there are many instances, as you might know, of fraud coming up. And so we have identified that as a crucial issue, and hopefully we can get that done within the year.
The conference turned out successful as it brought together the Belizean public and private sector stakeholders in one place to discuss and identify risk areas that need urgent intervention in hopes of breaking up the financing of terrorism and money laundering in country. Present today was Lenny Segiri McGann, Director of the Financial Intelligence Unit.
The conference, really, as our theme suggests, is to talk about how we can collaborate together, to talk about how innovation impacts the work that we do, and to have open and frank discussions about that, and also to hear about from experts in their specific fields that concern, for example, cybercrime. So we'll be talking about cyber threats, cyber security, and the idea is to raise awareness amongst our participants. We have specific breakout rooms for law enforcement, so we'll be going over simulation activities. The first part of it is targeted for law enforcement. We'll be running it again and opening it up to our private sector participants. The idea is to target the specific needs of law enforcement. We'll be talking about cyber issues with them, and as well as case studies on how to do certain investigative tactics and demonstrations. So we're quite excited that we're able to incorporate breakout sessions in this year's conference and to target certain sectors and their specific needs. Well, certainly the FIU is responsible for investigating and prosecuting financial crimes. I certainly see that there is a role for everyone in terms of deterring financial crimes. We certainly already have the Financial Crimes Working Group, where the Belize Police Department and the Financial Intelligence Unit are both members of that working group. We work to identify and bring cases jointly. So them specifically implementing measures to identify financial crimes and us developing referral mechanisms for additional crimes that they may be investigating because of their new measures is going to be a key pillar in how we move forward.
This conference is made possible as part of an ongoing partnership between the United States and Belize to enhance the implementation of Belize's anti-money laundering laws and strengthen governance.
To host this conference, it's an opportunity for experts to speak to both private sector and the public sector about the importance of combating financial crime, money laundering, the financing of terrorism, and build those skills so that we can do a better job of protecting both the United States and Belize.
What do those strategies look like?
So, money laundering is a technical crime, and so you have to develop the technical expertise to do that. One of the things that we do at the U.S. Embassy is we provide funding to build that capacity through training, through capacity building. For example, we fund a full-time advisor who's embedded with the Financial Intelligence Unit to help them build their capacity to conduct these very complicated financial investigations.
The conference is an opportune space for the entire Americas, especially the USA, whose citizens have been defrauded of thousands of dollars in the past in Belize.
Belize is making really important strides in being able to develop the tools necessary to do these kinds of investigations. The new civil asset forfeiture law, for example, will be a powerful tool. But it requires the building of capacity to be able to implement it and to do it right.
The conference is scheduled to last 2.5 days and will see some 30 presenters in person for an audience of 150 plus. That includes in-person and virtual participation. Elmer Cornejo, Ctv3 News.
Earlier in the month of June, consumers across the country saw the controlled price of a 16-ounce loaf of bread increase by 35 cents. Following that increase, the wholesale cost for that product jumped to $1.85, while the retail cost went from $1.75 to $2.10. Now, while those are the control prices for a pack of 16-ounce sliced bread, there have been reports from consumers from some parts of the country that retailers have been selling the product for a higher price, in some cases $2.25, and some even more. Today, we had a sit-down with Director of the Supplies and Control Unit, Lennox Nicholson, who emphasized that as the regulation imposed, the retail price of the product is $2.10 and should not be sold for more anywhere in the country.
Yes, we have received some reports of this particular situation, particularly in some parts of the Belize district, and it's something that we're following up on. Just to be clear, there are a couple of things we want to clarify. First and foremost is that, to reiterate, as you mentioned, is that there's only one product that is actually controlled or regulated, which is the 16-ounce sliced bread. You will notice that when the bakers put out their release, they made mention of certain other products as well, having price adjustments. But what we actually regulate is the 16-ounce sliced bread, and that alone. The price for that product, the control price for that product, was increased by 35 cents from $1.75 to $2.10. So for the assurance of clarity, $2.10 is the control price.
Right.
It's the legal price for the 16-ounce sliced bread, which no retailer is allowed to charge in excess of that for that product. So that, just so that everybody understands, that is the control price. Now, there is a practice in the retail sector for certain goods where they have a tendency to want to go to the nearest 25 cents, right? So if the price is $1.15, they would go to $1.25, things of that nature. And with this particular product, the control price, the legal price, the maximum price that you can charge is $2.10, nothing more than that. So that is what we have to hold. We have to hold the retailers to. It also has a control wholesale price, which is 25 cents less, right? So everybody's margin is actually built into the price, into that final retail price of $2.10, and that is what people are allowed to charge for that product.
Consumers are advised to report any case of inflation in the price of 16-ounce sliced bread to the control unit at phone number 607-4868. In late 2023, the Supplies Control Unit, SCU, in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise began to conduct inspections at stores across the country to ensure compliance with provisions of the Supplies Control Regulations. These regulations, as you may be aware, allow the Supplies and Control Unit to issue tickets or even close down an establishment who are found in contradiction of these regulations, which include price gouging. Since September of last year, there have been 3 rounds of inspections across the country, and today the Director of Supplies, Lennox Nicholson, gave an update on those investigations. Since the last set of reports complied by the unit, Nicholson says there has been move to implement regulation offices in the north and south of the country to ensure continuous monitoring on the issue of price gouging across the country.
Last set of reports, we were at about 90 or so violations. We're up to 126, going to 130.
Okay.
So the inspections continue. Some places have more problems than others, and so we tend to invest more time in some locations. Like I mentioned the last time I was here, a place like San Pedro is a location that requires a lot of attention. And I must tell you that the government has made a decision to actually increase my staff.
Okay.
And so going forward, you will be looking at us having a regional office here in the north and one in the south.
Okay.
That will increase our coverage, and it will improve our response time in terms of how quickly we can respond and get to a particular location. So rather than the work stopping, the work continues and is on the verge of being expanded even further.
Right, right.
Since the start of these investigations in 2023, Nicholson says there has been a decrease in the instances of stores violating these regulations. There, however, are still cases that must be looked at, particularly in the rural communities.
There's a tendency for there to be an issue in rural areas as well. The inspector was telling me that the last time when they visited Sarteneja, his store owner was like, "Who no actually koya?"
If you knew, you would change the prices that are on the shelf.
Right? So they were like, you didn't get the message? It wasn't communicated to you? And he said, yes, but we did a Sarteneja.
He did not believe that you guys would reach
right.
there.
The mandate is national. And persons in rural areas are just as entitled to the services we provide as persons in urban areas. Right. So that is our approach, is to try and ensure that everybody gets some attention. It's still the same three violations, but I can tell you that the incidence of persons not declaring the price or making the price available to the consumer, that one they have calm themselves on that one a little bit, right? We have been getting more invoices. We have been getting some more cooperation with that. So what you find, like I mentioned to you, most of the ones that are already facing the competitive pressures and are maybe a little bit larger and have better record keeping and things like that, you will find that there is a moderation and an easing off a little bit. But the areas that I mentioned to you, your San Pedro, certain rural areas, as well as some of these corner stores, is a problem, right? And I had told your colleague that one of the areas that we want to do considerable work, again, and I had mentioned it to you the last time we were here, is regarding the feminine hygiene products, because it's linked to another government policy. The other government policy I mentioned was where they took a decision to remove all fees, duties, taxes, and other levies on the importation of those products. So the government took a decision to not earn any revenue on the importation of these products whatsoever. The intention being that some relief be brought to the female population of this country. Not so that somebody can just keep the price at the same level and earn a windfall. So it is our intention to do significantly more work examining invoices and retail prices of these products in particular.
Particular emphasis will also be placed on the prices of female sanitary products, which have recently seen taxes and import duties removed. And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
This plan, I can't leave this plan. Smart Belize.
Hey there, smart thinkers. We're turbocharging your mobile experience with Smart's powered up postpaid plans. Imagine a world where your data speeds flows faster than ever. Well, guess what? We've cranked up the dial and unleashed the postpaid power of Smart's lightning-fast LTE data on all our postpaid plans. That's right, no speed bumps, more data. It's like having a limitless highway of data speed at your fingertips. Whether you're a lone ranger with an individual plan or a squad rolling with a group plan, everyone gets to surf, stream, and share at enhanced, full, high-quality speed. Switch to Smart's powered-up postpaid plans today and ride the wave of postpaid power. Visit any Smart showroom or smart-bz.com for details and make your mobile experience smarter and faster. Smart, bringing people together.
No, I can't leave this plan. I can't leave this plan.
Orange Walk's very own cultural pioneer Felicita Cantun from the community of Yule Creek is among this year's awardees for the King's Birthday Honors. Cantun was bestowed the Order of the British Empire, OBE, for her outstanding contribution to culture. Also honored were Beverly and Louise Wade for her contribution to the environment. Raymond Kearney received the Commander of the British Empire, CBE, for contribution to business, while the member of the British Empire, MBE, was awarded to Mark Anthony Chavarria for contribution to sports, and Howell Austin Gillett for service to the community, and Robert Amadeo Mariano for service to the community. Today, the Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Froila Zalam, received letters of credence from 3 newly appointed ambassadors to Belize. His Excellency Nikolaos Katroukis, Ambassador of the Hellenic Republic, Greece. His Excellency Adli Kwazem Al-Kaheldi, Ambassador of Jordan. And His Excellency Jamal Sharifuddin bin Johan, Ambassador of Malaysia, presented their credentials at the Belize House in Belmopan. The ambassadors each expressed their hopes of forging stronger bonds with Belize during their tenure. The Governor General extended a warm welcome to the diplomats and conveyed well wishes on behalf of the people of Belize. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Tuesday, June 18th, here on Ctv3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at Ctv3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at Ctv3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.